So guys, when I designed the workshop, I was like, who is this workshop for? What am I seeing that is happening? People are putting so much effort in their careers, so much effort in their careers, in their fitness, in their nutrition, but they are not putting the same effort in the relationship, right? The juggling of family and career just leaves no place for what I call erotic self, erotic life. And also, even if you have relationships, that relationship is not quality, is not effort. Because we were told that relationships should be effortless, because this is the one, right? Like it should be all easy. The spark is faded. And I also hear a lot of people who come to me after hearing generic advice, trying it. It didn't work for them, and they feel broken because it's like, okay, Esther Perel said that. How on earth I tried it? It didn't work for me. I'm wrong. Particularly women, they're like, I'm the problem. And if it resonates with me, just put in the chat if this is one of your themes that you're coming with. I heard already that Max came just like, I want to spice it up. I want something more. And this is how it all starts with, I want more. But in general, if I look at the relationship, I feel like modern relationships are broken. And this is why ethical non-monogamy is booming, because people is like, I see a relationship is not working. Let me try another shape, another paradigm, how to build relationship. And I believe relationships should be as unique as you are. But the relationship that our parents had is just not working in our modern world. We don't have role models. The pressure that we have, the responsibility, the social media, the distractions, they're just crazy. The 3 times a week, by the way, I did also try to find the, where is it coming from? In the UK, after 35 years old, women who are 35 years old in a relationship have sex twice a month. It's 2-3 times a month everywhere in the world. So it's rare, but all of this pressure of my sex life is terrible because it should be 3 times a week. And neglecting the quality, because it is about quality, not quantity. And desire and passion, the science tells us desire and passion declines rapidly, particularly for women in a relationship, but it doesn't give us real answers to what, and people are searching for answers, and you are one of those people who want to find the answer to how can I do it differently. And for me, the way I coach couples and singles people is it's intentional intimacy, and intimacy your way. The way your fitness regime is unique, your nutrition is unique, your relationship should be unique. And I like calling it intentional intimacy blueprint. And I found, by the way, this week a sex therapist, and she calls it intentional relationship design, that I want to connect with her to explore it even more. So your relationship should be unique. Even if you decide to embrace CNC and or consensual non-monogamy, CNM, or open your relationship, it should be a unique design to you, or you can reimagine how you live. And I'll talk a little bit like about fresh ideas, how you can maintain spark and have a beautiful relationship. For me, relationship is about pleasure. For some people, it's also pleasure, connection, growth together. And all idea that we are so evolving, our taste evolves, our nutritional taste evolves so much, food taste. Like your erotic self is also evolving. And this is where people disconnect. They start together, they might have the same desires, the same turn-ons, but with time, you grow. And the only way to keep up is to run experiments. The same as in business, you have growth experiments. Just looking at it like, what can I do? And try it for 2, 3, 4 weeks and see if it improves your sex life or not, and talk to your partner. And I would like to think about intimacy coaching as this personal trainer for your intimate life, how to be constantly thinking about improving and really prioritizing it. And this presentation is my thoughts on passion. And please absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. There is no recipe. If someone had a recipe, that person will be very, very rich, right? This is why so many couples are struggling. And so many singles also struggling to find the right partner to connect and to form that intimacy. So we all have to figure it out on our own. And I hope that will give you some ideas. So let me tell you how I came to intimacy coaching. I'm coming from a business background. I'm a chief marketing officer in my previous life, and I was an executive and career coach and a trainer in business and marketing. I love biohacking. I did a lot of growth. And 3 years ago, I found an opportunity to launch a sex chocolate that I did launch. And that pulled me into intimacy. And I realized that the problems that I was solving before for startups or for CEOs, they're not big enough versus the problem that people face in intimacy. That's why I got certified and I started my coaching journey, and I'm enjoying it massively. And Max and I were talking about foreplay. This is my brand. It's a sensory experience. It's a sex aphrodisiac chocolate with card game. So sex is a combination of body, mind, soul connection. So if you engage all these three, this is where you get the ultimate experience. And foreplay there is a mind connection because there are cards with spicy questions. There is aphrodisiac chocolate that is quite arousing. And there is a gesture of gifting, making your partner feel desired, and a little bit of mindfulness that we'll look into. And recently I also launched Foreplay Academy, where I do coaching and workshops, and loving the journey so far. But today, when I structured this presentation, I said, what would I say to a friend if my friend comes to me and say, tell me everything you know about passion? How should I think about passion? So I got inspired from my intimacy coaching clients. I looked at the sex science, and as I mentioned, sex science is not interested in pleasure and passion. It's all focused on dysfunction, and it's all focused on babies, because sex is for reproduction. When now we're using sex for connection, for growth, for fun, for pleasure, even for enlightening spiritual experiences. But it's not how sex science looks at sex. And I looked at the spirituality, and we're talking about polarity. That is my new passion research topic that I absolutely love. So let's start with intimacy coaching. There are topics and themes that client after client I see. And the first common theme that I see is not understanding responsive desire. And I'm absolutely upset with the science that they called it responsive desire, because in fact, responsive desire is lack of desire. So 85% of women and around, I think it's 30% of men have this thing called responsive desire. And your desire can move and shift. And it's normally happening if you're stressed or if your life is busy, you shift into responsive desire. So responsive desire, and this is a quote from a client, she said to me, it feels like I don't mind. It's not feeling like I want to have sex. The whole idea that responsive desire appears during the process of intimacy. And this is I like to call it desire response, because something pleasurable and stimulating happens, and then desire appears. So the whole question that a woman asking, do I want to have sex? Do I want to have sex? No, the answer is no. In the majority of cases, desire is responsive. By the way, there are men who have responsive desire. And I recently, this week, by the way, if you watch Made in Chelsea, I'm on that episode coaching a gay couple, and obviously the cut is very short, but the whole coaching was one of the partner had a responsive desire, and he couldn't understand how it feels, why why he should engage in intimacy, even if he feels very flat. But responsive desire does feel flat. So the questions of responsive desire is like, am I open to seeing if I can get turned on? Am I open to engaging and seeing if I enjoy it? And if I don't, I say no during the process. And another powerful question I recently found out is, what are my reasons? Why I wouldn't do it? If I say no, what exactly? Why it's no? So the responsive desire and people with responsive desire is so common. So not wanting sex is normal. That's why a lot of sexologists will tell you schedule intimacy. And for a lot of people, it is pressure, when in fact, the advice is have a time, have a space, have a container where you can play, where you can have fun. And if during this process you get turned on, then you can have sex. But a lot of people see it as like, oh my God, it's 8 p.m., I should have sex. So it's pressure on both partners. The second massive issue that I see in business women, but also in a lot of men, living their life from their business self, planning, intellectualizing, thinking, rather than living from what I call erotic self. Erotic self lives in the body, enjoys sensations. It's all about desires. And the more you develop erotic self, the more erotic energy you have, and the more polarity, the more passion, the more spark you have. And I'm sure if I were to ask everyone, like, what do you do work-wise? Tell me more about your career self, or tell me more about yourself as a mother. You'll be able, or as a parent or as a friend, you'll be able to tell me who you are, what are your values, how you live your life. But when I ask people, oh, tell me about your erotic self. What does your erotic self likes? What excites them? I quite often people are like, what is the weird question? But that is the vitality. That is the source of our life. And we will connect a little bit with our erotic self today. The third aspect is misunderstanding the connection about emotional and physical. People are normally compartmentalizing it. It's like, okay, here we are emotional, here we are fucking. And this is not how it's happening. So it's all one process. And my observation is that spontaneous desire partners are normally people who need physical intimacy to connect emotionally. And I had a coaching session with one partner, and for him, it was revolutionary to understand that, in fact, he is not after sex. He's not after an orgasm. He's after that feeling of oneness, connection, being together, feeling desired, feeling together with a partner. So it also helped him reimagine that he shouldn't be just, I want sex. It's like, I want to connect. I want to feel close to you. And for a lot of men particularly, it's difficult to say those words and difficult to get to that level of awareness that sex is just a gateway to that emotional connection. And responsive desire partner is different. They need emotional connection to feel physically open. So this is where the catch-22 in a lot of couples are happening. They just want the same outcome, but they are approaching it from different directions. And I would like, with our small group that we are here, just to do a 4-minute practice. It will be a small meditation to connect with your erotic self and see what you get. Are you guys open? 3-4 minute meditation to see your vibrant erotic desires and see what comes up to you. Give me a thumbs up if you're up for a meditation. Yeah. Okay. So let's start then. Sit comfortably. Yeah, feel the ground. If your spine relaxed and upright, you can have your hands gently resting on your thighs and close your eyes. Close your eyes, soften your gaze. And let's breathe together. Deep breathe in and breathe out slowly. You can breathe out through your mouth just to release any tension. Yeah, and just settle into your body. Breathe in and breathe out. And starting at the top of your head, bring your attention gently to each part of your body. Begin with your scalp, then your forehead. Just relax your face, relax your eyes, relax your lips, your jaw. Your jaw, by the way, is very connected to genitals. So the more you relax it, the more your genital area also relaxes, is open. Just soften. Breathe deeply and sense any subtle sensation of pleasure. And visualize tension melting away. Now move your attention to your belly. Breathe deeply into this space. And notice any sensation of heat, pulsing, or tension. Sit in stillness for a moment. And visualize your erotic self standing before you. Your erotic self can come to you as a ball of energy. It can be you looking a particular way, an animal, a silhouette. Let it be. What does my erotic self look like? How do they move? How do they feel? Do they have a message for you? Or a desire? Invite this part of yourself to merge with you, knowing it's a natural and integral part of your being. As you breathe, affirm to yourself, I embrace my erotic self with love and curiosity. And I'm worthy of pleasure, connection, and joy. Feel where in the body you feel the sensations of your erotic self. Is it in your heart, in your belly, in your throat? How does it feel being in the presence of your erotic self? Thank yourself for being open and brave to try new things and venture in the areas of discomfort with a sense of joy. When you feel ready, open your eyes. But to come back to the things that are happening inside of us, we do have lots and lots of different parts. And I'm using internal family systems. Some people use other systems, other ways of looking at self. But I believe we have higher self. And this is the real self, the sunshine, the energy. Then we have business self. And a lot of us are stuck in this part, the part that made us successful. A lot of women have people pleaser and caretaker. It's a very comfortable, nurturing role. That the downside of this role, pleasure feels selfish, and pleasure is not allowed because it's not about my pleasure, it's about pleasing another person. And this is a cycle, a pattern that a lot of people who have a very strong people pleaser, they feel. For most men, there is a stoic or shut down part where like emotions are considered to be weakness and emotions are not welcome. And there are different parts inside of us. including romantic and erotic. And these parts for me are so important. Some people misunderstand them because our erotic part can have very unique desires. And some of these desires to be to submit or to surrender or to be used or to be pursued or to be hunted. Some of them are quite, or to be humiliated, right? Some of them are quite unique triggers of our psyche. But our romantic side wants to be adored, loved, desired. So it's so for a lot of people, it's quite difficult to understand how on one side my partner wants me to adore them and to give them love and to feel desired, but on the other side, they want to be humiliated because that is what drives their arousal. So this is why it is so important to reconnect with the erotic part and understand what are the drivers. It's also called core desire. What drives your eroticism? What is erotic for your brain? And I advise to be loving and kind because the beauty of our mind is fascinating. And if you were to ask, like, what is this erotic self? I also call it sometimes lover mode. It's living in the body, enjoying sensation, enjoying the feelings. It's all about pleasure. It's all about play and exploration through sensations. And I think sex is a natural byproduct of connecting to your erotic self. And for a lot of, by the way, people, they can't connect with the erotic self on their own, but they find an external, a new lover, or a new circumstance, or a new kink, or a new fantasy that allows them to step into erotic self, when in fact you can also connect on your own. And these are some of the ideas how you can connect. The problem is that all of us have different erotic selves. And for someone I had one client, and for her, cooking was that she said, like, when she cooks, she drops into her body. It's a flow. And for her, it was very connecting to erotic self. When for other people, cooking is a chore, right? But meditation, daily pleasures, taking your erotic self on a date, going shopping with your erotic self, buying books, toys, underwear, just learning new skills with your erotic self, playing solo fantasies, dropping into your body, doing a lot of even fitness and dancing is helping a lot. So there are a lot of things that you can do to nurture erotic self, but sadly we prioritize what is efficient, and here there is nothing efficient. It's all about flow, dance, play, body sensation. And the more we can reconnect, the more erotically vital we can be. Now let's move to sex science, because sex science also has something to tell us about passion and desire. So at the beginning, we all feel this crazy passion that is because of surge of dopamine and also testosterone. Testosterone is a sex drive hormone for men and for women also. So new relationship energy is absolutely natural. I even think that the way particularly female hormones work, they're all made for babies. Like we have spontaneous desire during our ovulation is when there is higher chance of pregnancy. We have lots of spontaneous desire during new relationship that normally lasts between 6 to 16, 18 months. So it's enough time for us to fall in love, to build trust, and have baby with the person. So my stance is that physiologically we are made for reproduction. And now, as a more evolved human beings, we're using sex for pleasure, for a healing, for our spiritual development. But the new relationship energy will be lost. And the dopamine, sustaining that level of dopamine that we had at the beginning, if you remember, all that passion, all that overthinking, being absolutely obsessed, it's almost obsessive feeling about your partner. It's unrealistic to live like that the whole life. You can change partners every year, one strategy. Or you can look at the how a more secure, more bonded relationship feel and work on it. And let's look what is possible to do. So dopamine is the neurotransmitter, and it's all about anticipating things, but also it's all about thinking, excitement, novelty, something that is unpredictable. So what the science tells us that even thinking about sex or thinking about scenarios or anticipating pleasure increases dopamine. And increases your passion and arousal. Like even during this workshop, you might start having some sexy thoughts and you will be like, oh, I do feel I'm kind of getting in the mood. Nothing to do with me. It's all because you engage your brain in thinking about sex. The second level of increasing even more your dopamine is talking about your fantasies, particularly with your partner. Nothing is sexier than discussing and engaging in that mental talk with your partner, sharing that fantasy, because your brain is almost like when you share the fantasy, brain doesn't know the difference between reality and your thoughts. This is why manifestation also works. If you can prime your thoughts to be so high vibing. So talking about fantasy is mega sexy. Another way that I call mental play and teasing and seducing and dirty talk with particular sexual fantasy can increase dopamine even more. Sadly, dirty talk there are lots of couples that want to try it, but there are so many blogs of us saying, particularly women, we are good girls and slut shaming and looking at dirty talk as something that is just not acceptable. It's not something that a proper woman does. When in fact it's the right dirty talk is mentally arousing, and there are even techniques of how to enhance the pleasure using dirty talk. So it's mega arousing and experiencing novelty. But let me share with you the idea of how you can play with the fantasy. So we are not meant to satisfy all needs of our partner, because that will be like you're not there just a needs dispenser, like whatever you want, whatever fantasy you want, I'm here to say. It's not. It's almost like there is an intersection of interest, but you can always tease your partner with a fantasy. And I had a client where we learned how to engage in fantasy, how to engage in some dirty talk. But for her case, it was not even dirty. It's just looking at the fantasy and mentally playing with your partner. Like, for example, her partner wanted threesome. She said it's absolutely no go for her. It's just telling the partner, like, oh, I had a dream that we were together, it was an island, there were women, and we had this hot sex. Or saying, I went to a pharmacy and I met a woman, and I thought if one day we would have a threesome with another woman, that kind of woman I liked. Just engaging mentally your partner, or even whispering during intimacies, like, how would you feel if we had another woman here? What would you do? Because fantasy is misunderstood. By definition, fantasy is a scenario that you find mentally arousing. And I do see clients who find fantasy mentally arousing. They do it in their real life, and they're like, oh, what expectations versus reality. Because it's quite difficult to engineer a very beautiful threesome. By the way, it's the most popular fantasy. Second most popular is power play. It's quite difficult to engineer a beautiful threesome. Requires lots of planning. Who does what? What are the boundaries? Communication. Who is allowed to touch? Like and there are 3 people involved. Lots of talking. But you can always have a mental play that is beautiful. Another thing that science tells us is that regular orgasms are keeping our hormonal health. And the more we have, the more we want. The less we have, the less we want. That's why lots of people, they think that they are asexual. But in fact, they just decondition their body from having sex. They need to get back in this way. But some people are asexual, let's be clear. So A latest research that I saw for everyone who is 40 and above, that orgasm and pleasure diminishes the symptoms of perimenopause. So starting from 35, you can start from 35, 38, you start perimenopause, where your estrogen is decreasing, and for a woman it can be quite I have a question for Joanna. Is that the same for all genders? Yes, absolutely. The research was done for both, because testosterone is produced in both in men and women. Men produce more testosterone, their baseline is higher and they produce more. Women, baseline is lower and they produce less. And by the way, menopause is a new topic also. During menopause, a lot of women have hormone replacement therapy with testosterone that increases their libido, and they say, oh, I have my second spring, and lots of desire. But coming back to like orgasms, and not only it's anti-aging, your immunity, your hormonal health, it also becomes like your body gets in that mood and that mode of constantly, the more orgasm you have, the more hormonal health. So it's almost like when you get out of this path, it's quite difficult to get back. Particularly for single people, I say solo play is beautiful. And by the way, solo play has almost the same benefits. It has less oxytocin, less bonding, because there is not another human to bond with, but you have the same benefits. So there are no reasons why you would just say no to such a benefit. And the more you have, the more you want, the more passion you create, even if you are with yourself, and the more passion you can share with your partner. On that note, I'm done with the science. There are some other research, by the way, on the science, that like how important is aftercare and people after sex having a connecting experience that is also creates bonding. But sadly, not a lot on passion, because that is not the topic of interest. But here it comes what I call spirituality, because that is not researched, but there are lots of contemporary sexologists that are talking about it. And here we're talking about erotic polarity. I know Danielle is on the call. She's also a leading expert in female polarity and embracing female self. So the easiest way, the way I explain polarity to people, we all had that one man or woman that we met in our 20s or 30s that was absolutely a walking red flag. It was absolutely no go on all aspects. But we had incredible passion, incredible attraction. So the more different we are, the more we are plus and minus, feminine, masculine, yin, yang, the more attraction we feel. That almost like an energetic magnetic field. What is happening when we are in a relationship? We are becoming one. We have togetherness. We look like our partner. We talk like our partner. So there is no space here. We are one. Our energy is one. There is no space for attraction. There is no space for chemistry. And there is this idea of erotic charge, erotic tension, and erotic different polarization that will create polarity and create that passion back. Let me look at the charts. You can have strong polarity, great attraction toward each other without being compatible. Why someone can simultaneously be resistible, but no bad for you? Yes, yes. And I think we all had those situations when the polarity was so strong, but the person was absolutely from a different lifestyle, different ideas, a different vision of life, different values, and it does happen. I also find like cheating is one of the ways of creating polarity, right? Like you're so merged with your partner. So when you have a third person, they look different. You have more attraction toward them just because there is a distance between you. There is a charge. But I see unhealthy ways couples create polarity. And the most unhealthiest way is conflict or any kind of games. There is a difference between play and game, right? Like play is lighthearted and cheerful. Game is when you try to manipulate, when you try to get your partner to do something. So, and creating conflict on purpose. I had a couple that I coach, and this is what they like doing, because they were so together and the intimacy was beautiful and they were la la la. Very cheerful puppies. But obviously, when you're such a cheerful puppy, there is no passion. So then they needed a conflict, they needed drama, they needed a little bit of, that. And that created intensity. That made them have, one had one opinion, another had another opinion, polarized. But that is not healthy for your emotional intimacy. Some people withhold love, other people manipulate, others have very toxic masculinity, toxic femininity. So it's all about like, how can we create that distance, but just being unaware. And one of the ways is also engaging third person that you can do consensually or not. I put all my ideas of how to enhance erotic polarity in 4 main buckets. The first is embrace the masculine feminine. It's called masculine and feminine, but sometimes I disagree with this definition, but you saw lots of trainings on how to become more masculine and reconnect with the masculine, or how to be more feminine. Plan separation, and this is a huge topic. And if we look at Estelle Perel, she talks a lot about distance, seeing your partner as a separate being, seeing them from afar, seeing them in their element, seeing them in professional setting creates distance. Not seeing them in their pajamas, right, on the terrace drinking coffee, seeing them as a separate well-being. I'll read Daniel's comment, because I know Daniel. I'm very proud. Feel flattered that you joined, but I know it's your turn. It's so important to note that both genders have both masculine. Exactly, both of us, we have masculine and feminine. Is unique, and a lot of women lead and control and think, and a lot of men are allowed to feel, and feeling it's feminine. Second is plan separation, and I'll add some ideas of how you can have separation in a more normal way, in a contemporary way. Erotic build-up and seduction. Sadly, we forget about the power of erotic build-up. And if you looked at like King or a lot of fantasies, they are based on erotic build-up. They are based on the idea of thinking, planning, anticipating, and then having it and enjoying it more. When in a modern couple, if you have sex, it's almost like no foreplay, penetration, blah, blah, blah. There is no erotic build-up, right? Tantra is another example of a beautiful erotic build-up, when massage is happening for 60 minutes and there is potentially some release, or potentially there is no release at the end. So it's a massive erotic build-up that happens in the body. And then I'll talk a little bit about novelty and fantasies. So on masculine and feminine, I see it more as erotic self. And I think our erotic self has masculine and feminine, dominant and submissive, yin and yang, and we can also play and merge. So when I think about masculine feminine polarity, I think about both people being in their erotic self and having that unique erotic energy. And then playing with this energy when one partner leads and another surrenders, when one is present but another person has emotions, or one initiates and another receives. But for a lot of people, the easiest way to explain it, if you are in your feminine and your partner is in a masculine, the flow is just flowing. It's just easier to connect. And there is that erotic charge, there is that erotic field that other people can say, oh, they're magnetic. And this is one way of doing it. And for that, both partners on their own should go on a journey, should nurture their masculine, feminine self, or erotic self, the way you call it, should have their own practices, rituals, how they reconnect to that part and how they embrace it. And a lot of embracing is happening mentally, emotionally, but also through the body, moving the energy with breath, moving the energy with sound, and moving the body to allow energy to flow. And that is a huge area over here. And I think if you were just to stop, you know what your body needs to reconnect to that part of you. It's almost like it's how to find time and prioritize that this is important. The second thing that is talked quite a lot in modern sexology is its separation, distance, space. So when you are every day together, you live in the same place, you talk about all the chores, kids, that is just not where sexiness lives, right? Spending time apart, having solo trips, having different friends, having different interests and hobbies, sleeping in different beds, by the way. There is a sexologist who I really like, Michaela Boehm. She's a celebrity. A lot of celebrities go to her, and she literally advises to some celebrities who are divorced and have kids and remarry not to live in the same household, have two different houses. That I find a beautiful idea, but quite impractical for a lot of people. But let me talk about different beds. Like when you sleep in the same bed, your energy just merges. So you become one again. There is no charge. Interesting observation if you come back to where sleeping in one bed started. It started during agriculture, where people had small homes and a big field to work on. Home was small and there was one bed. They slept in one bed, but all the royalty, they never slept in one bed. So it's almost interesting to feel like for a lot of people, sleeping in one bed is just such a sacred ritual that in fact is quite challenged now with biohacking. Biohacking is a self-optimization movement, very popular in US, coming to UK and Europe, where people think how I can optimize myself. People like Brian Johnson and a lot of biohackers said it's like sleeping in different beds. And even sleep experts, they say sleeping in different beds is just much better for sleep. It's much better for energy. So that is one of the ways how planned separation can happen. An easier way to have this planned separation is to have time apart before intimacy or before date. So if you organize date, how people normally do it, they come home together, they get ready, they go. But you can come, maybe one person come home and another person comes to the place directly from their work, and there is some time apart, and everyone is doing some work on the masculine feminine polarity, reconnects to that part. So even spending 15 minutes apart before and having your own intimacy ritual can be very beneficial to polarize, to come back to your body rather than being so engrossed with your partner. So distance, planned separation, and space is essential. And this is what got challenged in COVID. Like COVID, I think, challenged that part quite badly because we didn't have jobs, we didn't have where to go. My favorite part about how you can create that sexual charge, create that sexual energy is using erotic buildup. Building energy just for the sake of having that energy or allowing the energy to build and then slow down. I love simmering, and some people also call it sexual currency. It's when you touch, kiss, connect, slap your partner without having sex, like just for a sake of liking it. It's what we do when we date. Here there is a caveat because there is a small asterisk that I need to put there. If you have kids and the kids are small and they're constantly touching you, there are a lot of women who experience touch overload, like a sensory overload. So then when their partner touches them, they're like, oh, it's just too much for the body to absorb all that touch. And touch becomes almost like annoying. So this is where They need time on their own. They need to resensitize, where touch becoming just a little bit annoying. So if you notice that the touch of your partner is becoming a little bit like, oh, again, he's touch. So that is a moment for you to say, okay, what is going on? What do I need? Maybe my body needs silence. Maybe I need to reconnect with myself. Erotic buildup happens with tease, seductive eye contact, slow foreplay, everything what we have at the beginning, or being close to each other and just feeling the electric charge, playing with that energy, having nights when there is no penetration and other forms of intimacy are used. There is a technique called sensate focus, when initially, I think, well, first day you just touch the body of your partner without touching any sexual areas like breast or genitalia, and then you move slowly to genitalia, just resensitizing the body, feeling how your energy can move. I think I should put here tantra also, because tantric practices and tantric massages are beautiful experiences to build that energy. Also edging, building their intensity and decreasing, playing with that, or playing with senses via sensation play with blindfold and temperature. So everything that is having a long foreplay, right? Like maybe this is how I should name this section, right? Just not having an efficiency mindset in sex, allowing the energy to build. This is also what creates polarity and allows people to feel the charge. And obviously, the most important topic is novelty. Our brain thrives on novelty, particularly high achievers and people who have very vibrant career lives. Like, we thrive on new challenges, new interesting opportunities, and novelty attracts us. Novelty is what we remember. When in sex, normally people have a 1-2 pleasure pathway. Pleasure pathway is how you get to orgasm. What are the different ways you can get to an orgasm? And they have one sexual script. There is a sequence of activities that happens for a person during sex. One change, like the options are limitless, how you can approach it, where you can start. And my advice, start small. Just see how a small change as place, time of the day, location. I'm a big believer of having sex vacations, and a friend of mine once called it fucking vacations. So I use this term, vacations, where you go to reconnect with your partner and have sex. We do have wellness vacations. Why we don't have erotic vacations? But any change is very thrilling for the brain. And every change makes us also polarized, because we're like, oh, something new is happening. I need to be present because something new is happening, something unknown. Change, surprise, unexpected, role play, playing with fantasy, either mentally playing or implementing it in real life. As I mentioned, the top 3, by the way, fantasies are multi-partner sex, power play, and the third one is novelty, as novelty and exploration of kinks. Kinks is a different topic. But what is happening when you have multi-partner sex? So instead of you being one unit, you need now to become 2 units, because there is third or fourth person in the dynamic that makes the relationship and the charge very polarized. This is where the thrill is happening. The problem with multi-partner sex, as I mentioned, very difficult to engineer. Like, the level of details you need to go into to make it right for everyone. And there are lots of pain and trauma that can open up after an unsuccessful play. I do think that repair for a couple, the way you exit a conflict, is super important. But repair after unsuccessful sexual experience, it's a different level of vulnerability. So multi-partner sex, first of all, is not for everyone. Not everyone is willing to go to that level of compersion. Compersion is the opposite of jealousy, when you feel the pleasure, when your partner has pleasure. When you get to a state of mind when you find that your partner getting pleasure is pleasurable for you, even if they get pleasure from another partner. So not a lot of people get to that point, but also not a lot of people want to get there. It's not like it's one of the fantasies. Why I have a workshop coming on power play. I had a webinar, but I want to go more into it. Why I think power play is interesting, because there are two people, you're already there. So now instead of being normal you assume different roles. And you assume roles of dominance and submission. And I love our comment during power play. So dominance can be feminine, submission can be masculine, or dominance can be masculine and feminine. It's not dominance, submission doesn't mean that dominance is masculine. This is one of the ways of looking. And I think I had stats before, but it's almost like 90% of people wanted to try power play. And the majority of them were switches. So they wanted to dominate and they wanted to submit. It was very high percentage. This is what arouses our brain. But if you think this mimics our life so much, because in our life, we're either leading or we're being led and we follow. And that is natural. So in the bedroom, you can do the same. Either lead or follow. And that is called either you dominate or you submit. And you can play with push-pull dynamics. You can try to have a day when I'm in control, day when one partner is in control, another partner just follows the instructions. And it's from my experience, like power play is, first of all, I do have lots of clients who either playing or getting into power play safely and healthily. But it's something that creates an absolutely different level of vulnerability, and it's something that creates a different level of charge, and different level of safety, because in some of the plays require a lot of physical activity, like impact play or spanking or restraint. So you're almost trusting your life to your partner, that there is something very liberating in it. So power play is one of the ways how I see lots of modern couples engaging into novelty and creating that polarity. Same as engaging in different types of kinks and embracing kinks, or being at the level when they can open up about their kinks to their partner. So that is about novelty. So far, this is what I would say to a friend if they're like, I want to improve my my passion and to have that erotic charge with the partner. I will say, look, the nature does its role only to a point of being interested in you two having kids. When you're using sex for pleasure, transformation, growth, healing, you have to work on it. It's a conscious effort that requires mindfulness, incredible communication, and the feeling of play, because it can be as playful and as creative as you want it to be. If you're interested in intimacy coaching, I do offer for a free session if you want to connect and talk more about it, because I find this topic absolutely fascinating. And I do have 2 workshops. I normally did workshops free of charge, but now I'm doing workshops with Wax, that is a Killing Kitten network, and I do workshops for them and also invite other people. If you want to join, one is about pleasure and practical tantric techniques, how to reconnect to your body. And another one is a power play, how to start power play, how to get prepared yourself, even if you're single, or how to do it with a partner. And when I think about these workshops, they talk about the same thing. They talk about how do I create polarity? But one workshop talks about how do I go inside me, reconnect to my body in order to feel more, in order to be more polarized, in order to be more into my feminine, masculine, erotic self. While another workshop, Power Play, tells you how can you enhance the sensation, how do you make the sensations of what is happening much more higher. Like, obviously, power play goes into impact and restraint, that is for the body, the sensations are at a different level.